Harry, good morning. All right, we're starting the meeting, and supposedly these speakers are pretty good, so if you're on the call and you're not hearing us, yell and let us speak up more. Today's meeting is to go through the agenda, and we will turn it over to our master of ceremonies, Doug, or Kate. I'm not sure who's taking us through the agenda today.
I just have to do an adjustment on my screen, sharing it from here. Okay, so we will walk through the agenda here. Sorry, this is a new setup, doing it this way for me too. So we'll all right, so for those of you in the room, there are printed copies here if you want to go through. I have a printed copy here in the corner.
Yeah, we can share one, Terry.
And then for those of you that are participating by Zoom, you should be able to see the screen here. Minimize that. Can everybody see the screen okay?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. This way, can't see everybody here. So yeah, we'll just have to do that. Sorry, doing a quick adjustment here, you guys. Okay. All right, jumping in, actually, there's no public hearings, no new public hearings in terms of this meeting.
Doing a short meeting.
Don't jinx us. Don't jinx us.
What does short mean?
Well, sometimes, you
You're out
know,
by
we've gone
midnight?
through a period with a lot of public hearings, so
2
we're
hours.
taking a fair amount of time.
Okay, first resolution here, acceptance of the monthly financial reports, standard resolution, and the second is budget transfers. Kate, this is going to be a little bit more difficult for me to share, pull up that, doing it this way. Is there anything specifically in this? I know I have the attachments.
Yeah, we had 2 budget transfers for bench sponsors that came in. They're the $400 park bench sponsors. So when the sponsorship comes in, I increase the revenue for donations, and then I increase the parks contractual line for Lindsay to purchase those plaques. And if you remember, we purchased all of the benches. I believe it was early 2020. It might have been late 2019, but we did purchase those. So now we're recuperating some of that. And then there was one other for the planning board, Doug, remember that?
Oh, right, for the planning board. Yep, for the secretary of the planning board.
Yep.
As we've made some changes there, as we've used our secretary for both the planning board and environmental conservation board more frequently for other things. They've exceeded their budget lines, so we're having to make an adjustment. Like, for instance, I'll give an example, and I'm not picking on you, Gary, but good morning. Kimberly Burkhardt, who is our environmental conservation board secretary, we also use her to take the minutes for the ordinance committee, and that was never really budgeted for that. So we'll make an adjustment when we do the 22 budget, but that type of stuff. So
I think we took it out of town board contractual because we often don't spend that on, right?
well, it depends on what's going on and stuff, but yeah, this particular one, we had some extra money in Canandaigua Lake management and celebrations, I think, is where we moved some money from. So just moving it around. So okay. Next resolution here, the closure of the CL fund. Kate, why don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you might remember the CL fund was from back in 2018 when Ontario County implemented the solid waste management plan to divert garbage into recycling and other streams. And in 2019, we completed most of the projects, but we did have a contract with IBTS to complete some more, I would say, communications and publicity for us. And unfortunately, they got a little bit of change as far as personnel, and there were some difficulties communicating with them. So we, in January of 2020, was actually the last time we had any correspondence from them. And as you see here, they did not complete the initiative items in the time frame within the contract. So although this—
Say hi to your kitty for us too.
I know she's very upset this morning because I haven't been home in weeks and now I'm in her space with the dog. So I apologize. She's sharing herself, yes. So again, with that, we had earmarked this amount for the contract, the $8,462.75 for the contract, and all we're doing here is returning that to the county. And then we did have some revenue, some interest, and the sales of those compost bins in 2019 and 2020. So we're going to move that to the general fund and then close out the CL fund completely as we are outside of the time frame for that work, and we've exhausted all the funds at this point. We did communicate. Caitlin communicated with Regina at the county, and this was how they wanted or requested that we handle the situation.
And so I think everybody heard, but I just want to make sure everybody understands. So that means we're returning that $8,000 to Ontario County. So
What is CL? Is that
it's
just the letters for that?
it's the letters for that fund. It's a comptroller designation specifically, but it's the solid waste management. Side note, just so everybody knows, tomorrow's Kate's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Kate.
Happy
Thank you,
Oh.
guys. Thank you so much.
On our new
I'm
national holiday.
29.
Kate, the next one here is the outstanding checks or the cancellation of the outstanding checks.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just another piece of continuing to clean up our financial status and our situation. There were quite a few outstanding checks that were from 18 and 19. And so part of doing this actually was prompted by the one check we had. Jean and I were working together on a check for the comptroller, or I'm sorry, the county clerk, for some easement filing. And we needed to make a change to that payment because there was a different form we weren't aware of. And you'll see that in the vouchers this month. And when I went to reverse that check, it wouldn't let me do it because in January, we changed our accounts payable process. So any of the checks that were outstanding that had been run prior to January of 2021, I couldn't reverse without re-implementing the old process. So Doug and we spoke about it, and I spoke to the auditors about it as well. And they referenced me to the state regulation that after a year, we can write these things off. So I looked at that, the list of what was outstanding. The clerk's check was the only one that was less than 12 months away, or yeah, within the 12 months, less than the year. So we decided it would be best to just do this all in one shot and not have to open up the old process, close it down, open up just for each individual check. So this kind of killed two birds with one stone. It allowed us to get completely transferred over to the new conversion process of cash and accounts payable and Encode. And it also allowed the town to write off some outstanding checks that had been hanging out for a while.
So, where are we keeping the details of those checks? Because I noticed it says that the people who have the check could come to us anytime within 6 years. So I want to make sure it's easy for us to validate whether or not their claim is, is true and pay them if
Yeah,
we-
absolutely. Absolutely agreed. And I made sure to put that in because when the auditors gave me the law, it stated that. And I wanted you guys to be aware of that there is a right for them to come back. So we have an attachment to the agenda that details the check number and the amount, as well as the account that it came from or was returned to. And then in Encode, all of that detail still exists. So I had to open up the old process, which was that pooled cash fund. I had to reactivate that to reverse these and then deactivate it. But all the detail is still in Encode. Just because I've inactivated it doesn't make it go away. So at any point in time, we can search any of those check numbers or the person's name or the amount, and we can pull that information up and see it clearly in Encode.
And I noticed that in our listing, we don't have the names listed or who the checks were for. Was that intentional?
That was just, I grabbed the spreadsheet that I had put together with the totals. We can certainly provide that information. It just wasn't something that I had in the spreadsheet that I put together for it. But all that detail isn't in code. We can pull that up. And if you'd like me to adjust the attachment with that information, I can definitely do that.
I don't know, I guess we don't need to, I just, I thought it might help later on when you're looking for it, to realize that, oh yeah, we had a check from this person, they just showed up and then, but sure, it's fine. All right. Next.
Sorry, the Wi-Fi in this building and in the highway building, let's just say there's opportunity for improvement. We struggle from time to time. So I just got an error message on my computer that I was sharing the screen from, or the agenda from, that says connection unstable. So I've got to try to do this a different way here real quick. So give me just a quick second.
Thank goodness Doug is so tech savvy.
Yeah.
Well, the next one, well, this one does that, I can help, is setting the public hearing on the local law to override the tax levy, which we did discuss last year. Did anyone think about it more and change their mind on following the process that we've been following for years? If this would be a good opportunity to have the discussion if somebody feels differently or.
Worked before.
Yeah, I'm good with sticking with it. I know we talked about it last week at this meeting, but I just want to give people a chance to speak up if they have a concern. All right. So let's see. And then the next one is the appointment of full-time parks laborer position.
Yeah.
That'll be Lindsay.
Yep. So Lindsay can take this.
Yep, so we have a vacancy right now for the Parks Maintenance Assistant, and I'm requesting that position not be filled. And at this time, I would like to promote my seasonal parks laborer, Julia, to a permanent parks laborer position and increase her pay by $1, so going from 16 to 17. And then we would have to move the funds from the Parks Maintenance Assistant budget line and transfer it to our full-time parks laborer budget line, obviously to account for the changes. This actually would save us around $11,000 and give me the ability to add an additional part-time seasonal employee by doing this.
Sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Julia's great. She's been a great addition to the parks team. I've really seen her blossom in the time she's been here.
$1 an hour enough?
Yes, it is comparable to where we're currently at, just based on her current skill set. So yes, the $1 is $1 more is perfect.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So the next one is, and I think Jean's on the call with us, right? I can't see everybody yet that's on the call here. This is surplusing some technology related items. Jean, I don't know if you want to touch on this.
Yeah, these are just things that we've replaced, old computers that are no longer viable for us, that we've taken out of commission. The hard drives have been destroyed and monitors that have died and an old printer that is no longer useful. So this is all part of getting it out of our fixed asset inventory, is a town board resolution to acknowledge the destruction of these items.
So the next one is actually it's a resolution to follow up on the conversation that we've had a couple of different times. I know we've had it last month and we had it at the Affordable Housing Project team. But this next one would actually, this resolution would create a budget line for the Affordable Housing Project team, taking $10,000 out of contingency to create their budget line so that they could continue the work. Just as a quick refresh of their memory, last month at the town board meeting, I had shared with you a proposal relative to the Affordable Housing Project and the work that the team is looking to do. And you had said to go back to the Affordable Housing Project team to see if they felt like they really needed it. And it was a unanimous recommendation from the team that, yes, They are requesting it and the need for this to basically create the budget line so that, and this would be a amount not to exceed $10,000 is the way that the contract is set up here, but using or creating that budget line so that they could use that as needed.
So what does that consultant do?
It's a whole proposal that, and really the team is still trying to figure out a lot in terms of like the definition of affordable housing and what it is, but it would be providing professional consultant help and leadership to the project team. That is a group of our citizens led by Karen Parkhurst has agreed to take the lead on that project team. So that is looking at definition of affordable housing. It's looking at what options exist, what programs exist. You really get into a lot when you're starting talking about affordable housing, that what it is and what price points are not, and if it includes refurbishing or helping and all kinds of variety of different things. But that's some of the stuff that they will need to tackle. That's a multi-year project. That's not something that's going to happen
That
right
would
away.
be someone comes to the town and says, we're gonna build affordable housing, then we have guidelines, they created guidelines and they know what, if what they're proposing falls within that.
All I would can say is to be determined, Joe. And that's, that's all the stuff that they have got to figure out. So, yeah. Yeah, there's a scope of services in the proposal associated with that. On-demand strategic support are the highlights basically of that. Sharing affordable housing models and best practices, market analysis, assessment of opportunities, identification of external funding, other financial support. But there's a lot to be figured out in terms of that whole
All
thing.
right, thanks.
Any questions on that one?
It feels more loose than what we normally do, but I feel like it's because of the affordable housing CIC kind of linked to it. How does that all even link together? It seems like this is going to be a year of clearing that up so that next year maybe we wouldn't have to have such a loose contract.
Well, so so there's the CIC, right? And then so the Affordable Housing Project Team. But one of the things that's a struggle for everybody, I think, is everybody has a different definition of affordable housing. And that could vary depending on an individual's personality or their own experience. So it is more fluid than a lot of times, but that's one of the challenges for the project team is to really define that and what it is and what that would entail.
Or what it is for our town. I mean,
Correct.
It's okay that everybody has a different one, but we should have something more clear for what we're thinking about in this town.
And there's a lot of conversation that has taken place both during the project team meetings and outside the project team meetings that the scope needs to be larger than the town of Canandaigua. When you're talking about affordable housing, it should be community-based. That maybe needs to include the city. Maybe it really needs to be driven by the county. And I know that there's a couple that have said that we need to get the county to really help take the leadership on this. But a lot of that is still also to be determined. Unfortunately, it's just a very fluid subject. So
Like trying to grab a handful of smoke at this point.
it kind of is. Okay. All right. The next one is, let's see. Oh, this is our pest control services. So we did an RFP that we received bids from, I think, was it four? Yeah. Anytime Pest Control, Ehrlich, Exodus, and Optimum Pest Pros. And I know that Sarah coordinated this and then reviewed this, I think, with you, Jim, and Jean, and a variety of others. And the recommendation is to use our existing provider, which is Ehrlich, I believe, right?
Right.
Is that
It
correct?
says they're the lowest, right?
Yes.
Right.
And
Yes.
we've been happy with that. So.
Yeah, they've been good.
And we need to get that going because I think we've missed a month of doing the transfer station. And then they also do our parks for us and any number of different things. So
And how many years is this?
I don't know.
the agreement itself. So normally with the RFP, we do it every, 3 years approximately, Gene? I don't think that this is looking at this real quick. This isn't a fixed contract term, I don't think. The response.
Yes, that's correct, Doug. They gave us an annual cost and we sign up for the reoccurring service. And then within our internal organization, we keep track. Jean has a spreadsheet of when we last RFP'd. And each year we take a look at that, at which one we need to send out requests for to make the service. So it would be 3 years, as Doug stated.
Okay,
But it's not a 3-year
it's
contract.
not in the contract, yeah,
It's-
we're
Correct.
if you want that for 3
Yeah.
years or something.
If something
like that.
crazy, we
Yeah.
can change it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Kate, maybe, or Jim, I don't know if you want to jump in on this utility COVID moratorium, but this is, we can thank the government for making our lives complicated.
Yeah, this is something similar to October of 2020. The town board had to approve a policy of notifying our water residents that they had an option to waive the penalty as long as they self-certified back to us that they had a financial hardship. I think we had like 12 people maybe respond back to us back then. And then in May, the governor made new rules with new terminology to waive the penalty, whichever comes first, the 180 days after December 31st of 2021, or if something happens before that, that we have to, each billing period, which will be the second and third quarter, we will have to notify people in each water bill that here are your rights on how to waive your penalty and also how to work out a payment plan with the town if you are unable to make your payments. So in a nutshell, that's what we're, am I missing anything, Kate?
We have to waive the penalty for all customers.
Oh, that's right.
What
Thank
the
you.
governor clarified. So previously, it was not clear whether the penalties were just for those who self-certified or for everyone. And what the governor in May did was he clarified the law from the year before. He also expanded the protection to small businesses with 25 or fewer customers, in addition to the residential customers that had already been covered. And what he very clearly stated in this new expansion is that no one can be assessed a penalty until the expiration of the state of emergency or December 31st, 2021, whichever comes sooner.
So didn't he just end the emergency the other day?
Only the restrictions, I believe.
Only the restrictions, the
Yeah,
state of emergency hasn't been
restrictions.
lifted. And this extends for 6 months once the state of emergency is lifted too.
Right.
That's actually in the legislation.
That's for anyone who's
This is
self-certified.
probably the second of never.
Right. So Kate, also touch base, please. And I was trying to see if I had that spreadsheet that we talked about the other day with Jim and Caitlin, but just so everybody's aware. So like, for instance, we have quite a few customers, water customers, that traditionally don't pay their water bill so that it goes on their taxes so they can write it off. Like, I think, what was it, $70,000 is owed to the town of Canandaigua approximately?
Yeah, correct. It was just about 68.
Okay, so, but we can't levy that against the taxes because of this moratorium. We're not allowed to do that. So we're still waiting.
We're not
for
allowed
that.
to penalize them.
We're not
Is that a
allowed to,
penalty?
we're not allowed to put a lien either. It's also in there.
Oh, I see.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So just so you know, there's this outstanding,
Arrears.
right?
So, that game, is there a way to legally recoup the aggravation and extra work that we go through to add it to the taxes? Because it would seem to me that we definitely spend town resources, taking those bills, filing the lien, doing whatever we need to do to, get that money back. Is there a way to, put in our schedule of fees or whatever, that when that happens, there's gonna be this much to recover our costs?
During a normal situation,
Yeah, I'm
maybe,
not talking about the pandemic.
maybe. I mean, it's
This
something
has
we
been an
should,
ongoing situation, and my thought is those people are costing the rest of the taxpayers money.
right. But this language is very, very clear that we're really prohibited right
Yeah.
now with this
And
situation, but, yeah.
my thought is more on a long-term basis, how do we do that? Because there needs to be a disincentive for them to cause everyone work and to play a little game. It's a shell game. But for them, it's free. The rest of the town residents are paying for their tax savings.
It's definitely something we could explore. I mean,
Don't have a good answer for you.
you always have,
I
the town
mean-
board always has the legal remedy of court also. I mean, if that
Yeah.
might be something.
I just think if we have a standard fee that we say, hey, because we have to do this, it costs the town this, and that's why we're charging it to this customer, and we're just gonna put it into the lien. So,
Well, I want to call a lien, but what you
It's not a
could
lien,
do,
you're just levying it on the tax.
all right,
Right,
well,
there's
we're
that,
gonna put it in
but-
the relevy.
the town board could consider in our fee schedule for administration, which there is a fee schedule in there for certain things. I don't believe administration's one of them, but they could add to it for additional services, like additional work on staff for this. That's might be one way.
For those that pay on an annual basis, that way it's an extra,
Right.
whatever.
That way they're bearing the cost
Percentage.
of what they're costing us. And I just feel like when you can get the cost of the person who's causing you to incur it, you're giving them that disincentive, then they get to make the choice. Is it worth it or is it not?
So, but because of that, so that's revenue for Canandaigua Consolidated Water Districts mostly, that normally we would have recovered the beginning of this year, that now we're still looking another
Right.
year before we
We're
get
gonna have
that.
a
So
huge
there's gonna be revenue shortage versus what there should have been.
Correct.
So we're almost like the landlords.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost, Gary.
When you say the revenue,
Yeah.
that's just the normal water usage, because you can't assess the penalty, or it's not a deferred penalty, right? It's just forgiven. penalty.
It's a
It's a forgiven
I
penalty.
don't feel
But you can
bad.
you can still book the revenue as a receivable in the year.
Deferred
that it was
receivable,
used, Right,
yeah,
Yeah,
but we won't get it until,
correct,
I hear
Yeah.
you.
yeah, at least a year later, so.
because you burned it.
Yeah, it's basically
You guys-
whoever is not paying is gonna have to pay
You're
eventually.
you're losing the use of the funds.
Not only that, I mean, we're having our people have to track this kind of stuff. This is just
It's costing us something.
I'd like to do that kind of thing. I think the more you get the cost back to the person who's causing you to incur it, the more likely the right decision is made. Maybe it still will go that way, but then at least we're not sharing that cost to the rest of the residents.
I don't know, I think if they're delaying payment until the end of the year to get it on their taxes, then you're just giving them more of a benefit. As long as they're not audited, because they would get thrown out,
Mhm.
because it's not a tax.
No, it's not a tax. So.
We should be reporting all those people from the IRS.
Yeah. We'll after it get by the fee. We also be reporting it.
there's quite a few of them when it adds up to, what was it? Do you guys remember the
70,000
number?
you said.
Well, it's like 70,000, but it was, I mean, think about, that's water bills. That's not, I mean, those aren't, there's a couple that are like thousands of
Oh, yeah.
dollars, but then there's a ton of them that are like 100,
100,
200.
200, right.
Right, so for
Yeah.
$200, we're incurring that much money.
Probably spending that much.
Right,
Yeah.
But we're
the town
losing,
is.
we're losing altogether.
I'm all for the administrative fee if you guys can figure out a way to do it.
Something for us to work
Something to
on.
look at.
It's gonna be a big revenue burner. $100 times all those people who are doing it.
All right, so the next resolution, so this resolution names Outhouse Park West, the playground that we discussed last month, as Motion Junction. So this would officially name that. It's also, We've got about $400,000, as we've talked about, that we're using. It's in the 21 budget. And it eventually, we'll do at the end of the year like we've always done. Here's all the stuff that we spent. We want to move this over from the Parks Fund. But, again, just as a reminder, this is about $400,000 coming out of the Parks Fund for that. So, and Jim is doing a phenomenal job over there.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
it's the guys are doing a ton of work.
Yeah, I don't mean to digress here a little bit, but I've been speaking with Floyd Rayburn, who's going to be doing the masonry work. So he and I have a idea of schedule. When he wants to get in and do his thing, we're going to work together with them. There's like 200 holes that have to be drilled for this playground.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to work together on doing that. We're doing the water main next week, the drainage in the park and the playground. The parking lots are too grade. We've got to bring in the gravel to finish to rough grade and start filling the ponds. I mean, I would say by the end of July, we should be, I say underground work should be mostly done. So when they come in August, they can just go.
I think the date is August 23rd, I believe, is
Okay.
the community build date. I'm pretty sure that's around, and then it's going to be a couple of days. As everybody knows, there's a lot of community involvement with this. Like for instance, I just learned that the equipment has all been purchased and paid for, and it's out wherever. Leonard's Express is actually going out voluntarily and picking it all up and bringing it back. And there's just a lot of that kind of stuff going on. They are still a little bit short on the finished material as well for the rubberized surface, and the building came in higher with construction costs than what they were planning. So they're still raising some money associated with those. They have their golf ball drop coming up, and they've got, I know, some large donations pending that are as it kind of finishes up. Also, just so everybody's aware, I did have a conversation on Monday evening with the city manager. The city of Canandaigua was also going to be making a contribution to this. They are very supportive and appreciative of all the work the town and the city have done at the dog park and the pickleball and all the other things. And they felt it was only fair for them to turn around and make an investment in the parks facilities that the town will have. So
How short are you?
So they're, I think the rubberized material is 200, and the building, they were originally estimating about 60, and that's about 240, I think. So in total for all of that's 400, but I think realistically short, they're somewhere in the 150-ish, maybe 200 at most range. But they've got some sizable donations that have been promised that just haven't come in yet. So they're just kind of trying to work through some of that. So my guess is realistically 100, 150 out of $1.5 million,
Yeah.
approximately. Yeah.
We've done a phenomenal job
Yeah.
raising money.
Yeah.
So
It's a great
What
project.
if Rotary?
Oh, yeah, tremendous.
Rotary has given some.
Did they?
Kiwanis has given a lot, but Rotary has given some. But yeah, there's and I've gotten interest. I may have mentioned this to you guys. Like I had a company call me from Cleveland, Ohio, that's planning on running fairly regular busing service from Cleveland to here to come to this playground. I also have had conversations. I think I talked to you, Terry. I don't remember if I talked to everybody or not. There's a gentleman who I know who's the CEO of Strategic Government Resources in Texas. We're going to be doing a show. Mike Bentley and I are going to get on a show with him, and they're featuring this. It's the first ever universal certified playground in the continental United States. This is really getting attention.
It really seems like one of the local kind of content creators could make almost a video, and the construction, we really need to have some clips of progress on the construction, because this to me seems like it's worthy of like a half-hour little show on how these things.
So they've actually been doing some of that. If check out Facebook, Think Big or Dream Big, I'm sorry, Inclusion in Motion. That's their Facebook page. So they just were over there filming yesterday, and they did some stuff yesterday, and they've been doing regular updates. And then I just grabbed knowing that the agenda was going to be coming out, I grabbed through Facebook, the Facebook page Motion Junction, so that we could start marketing that separately and everything, so that we have all that. So, yeah. But yeah, it is definitely getting some attention. And I, one of the things that we originally didn't talk about, but I can see, because like, for instance, the company in Cleveland was asking me about hotels, is the economic impact of this
I was gonna
playground.
say, the tourism board should be all over this in terms of just, it's such a unique
Mhm.
capability.
Is that where all the dirt down here is coming from? From over there?
No, that there was dirt from another job site, because I was getting a piece of equipment, no charge from a contractor to move other dirt. So I let us give him some fill, he could fill here if I could borrow his off-road hauler. So
Barter.
I was bartering.
Trading the horses.
Well,
All right.
say 6,000-7,000. So
What's this mailbox story? When my nice mailbox got damaged, I replaced it myself.
well, so we had a resident. We do have a policy that we do replace your mailbox with 4x4 post and mailbox in the town if it gets damaged. They weren't aware of it. They went out and bought themselves a mailbox and then submitted this for payment. I said, well, I understand what you're saying. I go, I'll take it to the town board and explain that we did damage your mailbox and ask them to pay your $85 for the mailbox replacement that you purchased.
That's really kind of cheap too. What do we pay for the standard one in the piece of wood?
Right now, well, it's kind of up there actually. Metal, they're about $35.
You replace what's there, or do you replace it?
So it depends. So in some of this, in other places like the subdivisions, have those $400 sets of mailboxes. We will replace one of those if we wipe it out.
Same with the big green plastic things.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so 85.
All right, then this is, yeah, then if you do that other place.
Yeah, we do that other places. It's not, this isn't necessarily a special thing. I would have, if I had known, I would have just went and replaced it ourselves and just been done with it and not come to the town board with this resolution to pay for it.
$85
So-
resolutions are kind of funny.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I told him we had to do, so.
The next one, it's the water main or the easements.
This easement is for the pressure reducing vault on Middle Cheshire Road. That's just south of the Crosswinds Church that we have and going to be installing in July. Just need to get it approved by the town board to get it to Jean so she can file it. Any questions on that one?
Nope.
All right.
Next one's the IMA with Farmington.
Yep, that one there is just an agreement between the two towns to sell water to each other.
This had lapsed, what, a couple of years?
Couple of years, yeah.
So
We've still been selling it, right, or buying? it?
Yeah, we sell to Farmington, we don't buy from Farmington unless
Unless we
something,
had to.
unless we had to, so, but
Just so everybody's aware too, just kind of side note while we're talking about Farmington Water, we have that Canandaigua Farmington Water District project that the town of Farmington is doing for us with the water tank and all that stuff. So we had been, Jim and I had met with the Pritchards. Did you see that email?
I did.
And the Pritchards are the same Pritchards, Catalpa Acres that we've done the PDR with and everything else, but they're also the same ones that are the ones who were very upset at what happened years ago. What would that have been, 8-9 years ago, maybe even longer, associated with the town of Canandaigua and the airport. And they went to court with the town of Canandaigua and everything else. So they have decided not to grant an easement that was being requested, a temporary easement for the construction of that. So it's going to make it a little bit more difficult on the crews. They won't have the room to work, but they're going to move forward without the easement. So it was just a temporary construction easement that was being
Oh,
requested.
to use some of their land for like
Mhm.
staging of equipment.
Right,
That's
correct.
unfortunate.
And then the entrance to it and everything. So anyway, so the new tank, just so everybody's aware, I do think at some point we're going to get phone calls because the new tank is
yeah.
higher.
Much
and
higher.
Much higher. I'm going to have a great view of it from my deck. I can't wait. So
And what do you think they're gonna?
I'm going to call my town board and complain. So
Just because they think it's flat, it's in the view.
Well, the current one is right with the tree lines, the top of the
Right.
tree, so you can't really see it during,
Right.
especially the summer, except for just the very tippy top. This new one, you're gonna see the whole thing.
What
Right.
color is it?
It's
Like a bluish.
like a blue, it's gonna say Kenneball Farmington Water on it, so. It's just gonna set, instead of say 70 feet in the air, it's gonna be 165 feet. In the air.
Yes.
That's quite in it.
Yeah.
Quite a hiding.
And it's one of the ones that looks like the golf ball on the
Yeah.
tee, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so-
my.
Correct. Mhm. They need more pressure, so.
Yeah.
Um,
The next one is maintenance bond for Fox Ridge subdivision. I don't know if there's anything that's finally starting to
Finally.
close that out, right?
they're finally starting to get their information back to the town for us to approve, so we can then take dedication and put the bond on it.
Everything is being done properly, and
Yeah, everything so far has been done properly.
I mean, there was a problem with water line there, wasn't, is this the section that,
I mean, the sewer line they had a problem with.
you know, you're telling me that they put in the water line, it was leaking in a number of places?
Oh, this is not the same
This is
section.
not-
This is
a
not,
different thing.
no, this is the, I'll call it the 6 houses on Lacrosse Circle, Terry, that
Okay.
were built.
The 3 on each side that
Side,
were built.
It's been like 2 years now, yeah.
This is the one
So-
though, that originally we had the problem with the road, but that's all been
That's been all corrected also. Yeah, this is only for Lacrosse Circle section.
And then really, these 2 resolutions go together. The next resolution is the dedication, accepting dedication of,
Right.
of that. So in order to accept the dedication, we require the maintenance bond. So the 2 resolutions really go together. So the next one,
Oh, Gary, I see you're getting.
Laura Lane.
Precision water pipes on your street.
Well,
old water lines on Laurel.
stormwater. So we have I was notified by a resident that there was a section of his lawn sinking. And there's a section of a old stormwater pipe that was installed many years ago when the first phase of Laurel Lane was built. I didn't have it in my 284 agreement, but the 5110 highway improvement line will pay for the expenses. What I'm asking the board to do is to approve Precision to go out there and reline the 12-inch stormwater, all of it, so that we won't have to worry about it again for 100 years.
You did this on Butler Road?
Yeah, we did some Butler Road, we did it on.
It worked very well.
It works great. Nobody's lawn gets torn up, nobody's driveway gets torn up.
Yeah, it saves a lot of money.
It saves money and it saves the aggravation of the homeowner. But there's one spot we'll have to dig up and actually replace a piece of pipe, but it's not terrible. It's down by
Sinking spot.
yeah, it's down by oh,
Dave Hammond.
yeah, thank you. Sorry.
So this will just be a highway fund expense, right?
Correct.
The
Yep.
contractual.
Correct. And then, oh, go ahead, Doug, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The last resolution we have on here is to purchase equipment from Log Trimble. Last week during the Public Works Committee, I presented to them the technology that we need to protect our water system due to the increased elevation of the tanks. We have 7 pressure reducing valves that do not have monitoring systems in them to tell us when the pressure is either getting high or getting low. I'm more worried about the high. For years, we've used a different technology that took a fair amount of money to build to just monitor pressure. It's all it does. This technology allows us to purchase a box with 2 sensors and install ourselves for a significant cost savings of versus the old way of doing it. We would typically spend about $8,000-9,000 per pressure reducing valve. This allows us to spend about $4,700 per pressure reducing valve. And I'm also, this protection is to allow us to know what's going on throughout the system, because our valves are all mechanical. And if anything goes wrong with a mechanical valve, it usually sticks open. not closed, and that's where we'll get a high pressure through the system. Problem is, we don't know which valve is open without having it monitored. So this is what this equipment will tell us after we get the tanks full at 65 feet.
And how do we see these pressures? Are they transmitted?
They
to
are
us?
transmitted through a cell connection that goes to our phones, our computer, wherever we want to send to give us alarms. It
And
tracks.
And we already have a cell point in each of these vaults, or no?
No, it's in the box. The box is literally a 6x6 by 4-inch deep box. I call it plug and play, Linda. You mount the box, you run the wire, you plug it in, take the wire, you put it to the water main. It does not need electricity. It runs off a battery.
Oh,
So we haven't got to do
Looks like.
electrical services for each pressure reducing valve. Battery lasts 5 years. And it tells you water hammer, pressure. Go ahead, Terry.
No, that's just because there is an antenna. You-
Oh, there's an antenna each one.
and so for next year's budget, I'm sure there's a monthly fee associated with
Yep.
the thing, make sure that we get it into the budget.
Correct.
Because a lot of times these things, that's the hidden cost that we figure out later. Oh, wait, you have to have a line.
Annual fee.
Yeah.
They're right in Victor. So anything that may go wrong, they're right here in town. They've been in business for 40 plus years. I think it's the correct way to protect our system, allow us to install ourselves without having to hire somebody to do it. It is fairly simple to install.
Yeah, and
It's,
we'll have a better monitoring. capability.
well, we need to know what's going on with the pressure reducing valves. It's just, if,
It sounds like in the past, we didn't.
We
didn't
don't.
know until there's a problem.
that's correct.
Yeah, we have that situation by crosswinds that occurred, when was that, earlier this year?
March.
Where we, the pipe broke and,
A little part, yeah.
the underground system is aging, and this is, that really
That's
is
a
what focused
stressor
our
for
attention on
everybody.
that we really need to know what the pressures are in real time throughout the entire system, and this will give us the ability. Plus, you also had some other units.
We have devices that are going to go on fire hydrants. I'm concerned with about the pressure reducing valves because we have nothing, we have no way of knowing what the tank and the pressure reducing valve, what's going on throughout the rest of the system. So we're going to purchase some pressure monitoring, water hammering devices to go on the fire hydrants to see what's going on, especially in our ACP, asbestos concrete pipe water mains. So we don't overpressurize them. Because we don't know what's going on between the pressure reducing valve and the tank.
The
So,
ACP pipe is kind of unique in that it doesn't fail because of buildup inside the pipe. A lot of what happens with ACP pipe, Jim has gotten, and Jim and Greg hoteling from MRB, it sent me this paper, there was a study that was done looking at ACP pipe. It degrades from the outside in.
great.
It depends on the pH of the soil and the so underground conditions. It just starts reacting with the concrete and turns it kind of mushy.
It does. The lime starts to get extracted from the cement, like down there Terry's section. The ACP, you like, it's kind of punky. You can stick your, I don't want to say you stick your finger in it, but like
It's sticky.
it's sticky, it's kind of degrading. So,
We have a lot.
and we
of
have a lot of AC pipe in our town. So,
Right.
So Jim, I have a quick question. So this is not going to be part of the SCADA system?
no, it won't be part of SCADA system. It'll be another system.
Okay, and then have you and Doug talked about like with the cybersecurity aspects of things?
No,
Okay,
it'll be all be cloud-based, just like everything else.
okay.
Is this just monitoring or is it monitor and control?
Just monitoring,
Okay.
no
Or
control.
monitoring that. So the SCADA system is more controlled. The
SCADA is
this
more
Yeah,
controlled.
so you
Correct.
definitely have to have better cyber security on something that's controlled
Correct.
than monitor alone.
And Gene has really been helping to push our security audit. Remember, we got a $50,000 Homeland Security grant to do an audit of not only our network and the things here at the town hall, but also the SCADA system and the water. And obviously, everybody knows it's been in the news a lot that municipalities have been struggling because of people
Right.
hacking water systems. And so they're concluding their work. And Jean, I think we expect that report. Is it next month? Is that
Correct.
all right? The next resolution here would be setting a public hearing on the draft comprehensive plan and then the intent to declare lead agency. So quite a story with this. I'll try to give you a 30,000 foot version on this. So basically, in 2018, we knew that we needed to update the comprehensive plan. 2020 was the goal to update the comprehensive plan. The town board, and rightly so, they said, we're going to do the comprehensive plan in-house this year because we have all the base documents. We have the agriculture enhancement plan, the sewer plan, the water master plan, Parks and Rec. We had done all that stuff just recently. So the process started in-house with the CIC creating a project team coming before the board as part of their work, creating a project team to work on the comprehensive plan. The project team, one of the very first things they did was they came up with an engagement plan. And in the engagement plan that they created, it says that they would be meeting in 7 different districts around the town of Canandaigua, and then going back out once the plan, the draft is kind of finalized, and going back out to the community again. The plan, obviously, COVID happened. It got delayed. It wasn't done by 2020. The CIC kind of, as the project team concluded its work in November of 20, the CIC picked up from there. And the CIC started meeting every 2 weeks since December, I don't know, just after Christmas, going through all the action steps and everything associated with the implementation of it. And many of you know, this was forwarded out to a variety of the different committees and boards, and almost everybody, I think, has seen this in one form or fashion. There has been a request from one of the project team members that before the town board sets a public hearing on the comprehensive plan, to go back out to the community in workshop sessions, or to have these meetings that was originally part of the engagement plan. The CIC is recommending that the town board go ahead and set the public hearing and move forward with the public hearing process, even if that's a couple of months. But at this point, what I said to them is, I need direction from the town board. You guys have to make a decision. If you want to go ahead and set a public hearing, you can set a public hearing, hold the first public hearing, continue the public hearing if you want. You could hold a workshop session, or you could direct that it go back out into the community. But it's to the point now where we've got, there's some differences of opinion, I think in particular from the CIC and specifically this one project team member, that the town board's got to give some direction at this point. So we're kind of punting the ball back to you, town board. Congratulations, and you guys get to make a decision.
So is the question whether or not how we have public engagement? Is that what the question is? Because public hearing is one way, right? And 7 meetings is another way. Is that what the difference of opinion is?
Well, in the original public engagement plan, there was a section that actually talked about from the project team that they were, when they had concluded their work, they were going to go back out in the community. And that's the point that this one person is making. But that was, COVID happened. And so they didn't have the chance to do that. So could they do it now? Sure. The CIC meetings have also been open to the public and being recorded. And I know many people have sent me emails about different things that they've watched in CIC meetings and everything else, specifically about the comprehensive plan. So that's another way. Or the town board could hold the public hearings and or also a workshop and or direct that this go back out. But at this point, the CIC, which is the group that was charged by resolution of the town board with overseeing this, they're recommending that the town board move forward with the public hearing process. So I kind of need the town board to make a decision.
And not do that.
Well, there was a discussion, I know, from one member about maybe even having a work session prior to a town board meeting or doing something like that. But it's really up to the town board. We just need to know what the town board wants to do. You could also, the comprehensive plan is a very important document. It truly, truly is. The other thing that you could seriously, and maybe it's also is you could do a work session. That's one idea. That's fine. You could also open the public hearing in July. You could continue it for a month or two. There's no rush to adopt this. You could adopt it August, September, just to give some extra time, some extra public hearings if you wanted to, but it's really up to you guys.
No, the project team handed it off to the CIC, and the CIC did their thing with it, and they sent it out to all the committees. I mean, we had the Public Works, we had the infrastructure and the transportation goals and measurables to review, and, you know, we recommended a few additions and some changes in the language, and, you know, they were implemented, and other boards and committees did likewise in their respective areas. And to me, it's a done document in that respect, that everybody's had a shot at it. Everybody's contributed to it.
Oh, and I thought maybe the thing that will be an addition will be taking people, like an opportunity to take people through it, not necessarily for changes, but for understanding, kind of bringing back what it was. I mean, even in a public hearing, we kind of just take comments. We don't walk people through it. Is there any thought on?
Well, we've
something like
done that. We've
Oh, yeah.
done that, I would say at least a dozen times.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, you know, serving on the CIC since the beginning, you know, this is a process we've used. We had meetings around the town, as Doug indicated. There was very few people that attend those
Well,
meetings
that's
from the
what I
get-go.
would
So it
find that
seems
all
though
the
that you're
time,
just
don't we?
wasting your
Right.
time,
Too
you know,
much.
keep prolonging this. It needs to be, you know, taken care of at the, you know, a public hearing and
Yeah,
adopted by the board.
I was wondering how many people showed up, because in general, we have a hard time.
Other than
getting
down in
people.
Cheshire, where they talked about the history of Cheshire, which brought a lot of people in. You know, there wasn't
yeah,
hardly anybody that
came just
attended.
for that.
And I mean, I attended, these others attended,
Yeah.
different, and there was nobody there.
Yeah, we went to most of them, and it was the
Beginning.
same people at the meetings.
Yeah.
But it's a,
And I say, let's go with what the CIC is
What
saying.
is CIC?
Can I just pop in for a second? I think this is more appropriate for town board meeting. So if we can have this conversation again at our town board meeting and
Oh, yeah, we always do.
finance.
well, it's also, you know, the series of 7 meetings that we had prior to, you know, putting the plan together was pre-COVID, and, you know, that, I mean,
That's
our
another
attitudes have
thing.
changed, and our, you know, I mean, most people I think are comfortable. We're all sitting here today, you know,
Right.
for the first time in quite a while, but, you know, you do have to consider that, and going back out and doing the same thing, attendance as well as people's feelings about gathering like that again in the future, you know, so.
Yeah, I think it's so unfortunate how few people are interested, but it's a reality that we deal with, right? I
Right.
mean, so.
Yeah.
At some point, and the pandemic certainly hurts, so yeah, so we could definitely talk about it more
Oh,
at a town board meeting, but I'm okay with taking the recommendation.
yeah,
Okay, so any other comments on that? We'll move on. No? Okay, setting a public hearing on the draft Uptown Code, form-based code. So this, very similarly, this has been in the works for quite a few years now. The form-based code, I know many of you have talked about it. One of the things we just talked about is with our CIC, our Citizens Implementation Committee, to answer your question, Joe, the Citizens Implementation Committee was created by the town board to implement the comprehensive plan. That was the whole intent and purposes of it. And as representatives from a variety of our boards and former members of a variety of boards, and it is open to the public, and all those meetings are recorded. But we were just having a conversation about this because we're starting to begin the work on the next phase of form-based code. And there's the people that have been involved with it and really the development of the Uptown study and then this first phase. I think everybody has a general good understanding of that, but there's a whole lot of people that this is going to impact: planning board members, zoning board members, even town board. You need to have a great understanding of this, that what we've been talking about is some additional workshop type meetings that where we would bring everybody together, even a variety of the project teams, even the ordinance committee, and really explain what this means to everybody. So the plan here is to go ahead and set the public hearing for your July meeting. We would have Bergman Associates come and do a presentation at that, but also have a much more separate meeting, because you'll never be able to go through it in a town board meeting, have a separate workshop meeting where we invite basically all the boards and anybody that's interested to participate, a hybrid style meeting in this, because there's a lot to it. But this first phase one specifically on this is when you're looking at the maps, it is the red section of the maps, which is just Route 332. So this does not include like back behind Fire Hall Road and those types of areas where we've talked about variety of different types of housing and everything. This is just 332 corridor from Tops to Emerson Road. So, all right, any questions on that? There's a lot of information in that one.
So we're gonna have that other meeting at some point while before the public hearing closes, is that the intent?
Maybe. So that next step, so work is beginning on phase 2 also. And so there's a lot of work that's happening on phase 2, but we'll try to get that meeting in terms of phase 1 before the July 19th town board meeting. But then we'll also have Bergman present at the July 19th town board meeting. We'll try to share as much information. The other thing is, and you know, I know that this is not as much fun, right? But all of the meetings have all been recorded. And we were just talking about sending out links to all of this stuff where people could go back and watch some of this stuff just to understand it and everything. But there's a lot to that. So, okay. Next resolution, setting a public hearing on a local law, amending portions of town code to allow for the construction of certain digital signs. All right. You all know the whole backstory on this and everything. There's still details to be figured out. But this in a nutshell is the legislative portion of this. Would be setting the public hearing to begin the process to move this forward. Setting the public hearing for the July 19th town board meeting, whether or not you take action at the July 19th town board meeting, that's up to you. But there has been some, what I would just say, inquiries into where do things stand? Is it moving forward or not? Is the town board wanting to move forward, or should we move forward in the other direction? That sort of thing. So this at least would set the public hearing so that we can have additional conversation about it publicly. Is what I would say.
Yeah, we definitely should talk about it because it felt like things were shifting around a little bit compared to where we were maybe a while. I don't know. That was just my observation. I wasn't sure everybody was as gung ho once we saw the details of what was being offered to the town.
Oh, separately in terms of the settlement?
Yeah, and that, maybe digital signs weren't the answer, but, I don't know. We should definitely talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm confused on it. And where the full board stands.
Okay. Any other comments on that one? We'll move on. You guys can debate that in your town board meeting. Recognizing the town account. Oh, Kathy, why don't you touch base on this one?
Oh, this is just quick. We don't need to talk about it. I had met with Michael Hicks from Congressman Jacobs' office, and he wanted to let us know that they have, similar to what Pam does for veterans, they have Veteran of the Month. And I was aware that Mr. Gerard was going to be 99 years old this year, so I nominated him, and Congressman Jacobs gave him the award last Friday. His family was in town for his 99th birthday, so
That's cool.
it was all just one of the nice things I get to do. We get to do.
The next one here is just standard relative to the ABC law, Square Knot Brewing. The next one, acknowledgement. This is our annual MS4 annual report, and I don't mean to kind of skip over this. This is a huge time thing that the DEC requires that we do annually, and thank God we have Chris Jensen as our MS4 coordinator, and he takes care of that for us. But that's what that is, the submission of that. The next one, setting a public hearing on, and really the stance I took, and I'm just going to be honest with you guys, the stance I took on this is we've had a variety of conversations, but some of these things are to the point where I need some clear direction from the town board during a public meeting. And so I went ahead and put the resolution on to set the public hearing. So at least you could take that part if you want to set the public and then continue your dialogue and debate or discussion or comments or whatever the case. So that would start that process. And the local law is attached. The draft local law is attached on that. The next one, so just a surety. And then the last one, we will have Bonadio will be a representative from Bonadio does plan to do a presentation on the annual audit for 2020. And this is just acknowledging the annual report that they'll be giving. It was kind of a late addition. Sorry, it's at the end. Normally that would be under the finance section, but so.
Just glad that the report is as good as it is and that we're not dealing with any of the holdovers that we've been holding over and holding over. So it's good to see we're finally getting.
Yeah, been a huge effort.
Yes, I appreciate everybody's work on that.
Do you need some direction from us on applying for the ARP funds? Do you need us to pass a resolution for you to do that? Or is that
No.
something that's just sort of go and do it?
So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I was going to touch base on that also. So in terms of the use of the money, let's talk about that another time and later. I mean, so basically the way I understand it from the Managers Association and a lot of the information that's being shared with me, if you use the money for infrastructure, which includes like roads, water, broadband is included in that, you can just go ahead and spend the whole amount. We're going to get $1.2 million.
Regardless of if you get a hardship or not.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
That was a confusing part to me.
Right.
That is confusing.
If you don't do that, then you have to the loss of revenue and all this other stuff, essentially is the way it's being explained. Now, Bonadio, our auditing firm, from what I understand, actually has, they have really done a great job and they're helping a lot of municipalities understand the legalese of this. So I'm going to see if I can get them to kind of, if they have like a snapshot on this, and maybe they could even do a 5-minute presentation to us on that just to make sure. But from everything that I've heard is if it's used for infrastructure, you can just go ahead and essentially use it. And so we should be getting we get 50% up front. We should be getting the first 50% at the end of June. I want to say our date is June 24th, but I keep hearing that the governor may have an additional 30 days built in to forward the money. So it may be July, but theoretically by August 1st, we should get the first 600,000. And then you have approximately another 600,000 coming after that. So anyway, but Kathy's referring to that specific form. That's just an administrative thing. I'll just take care of that. And then we can, you guys can figure out what you want to do with the money.
So
So,
it's federal money the state's holding right now.
yeah, that was the whole thing. It was the federal government passed it to the state and then the state forwards it on.
Figure out how to-
There was a training from Association of Towns. We received the PowerPoint. I sent it, I think, to some people that were asking. I'll send it to everyone. There's some acronyms on there that are a little hard to understand, like NEU, we're a non-entitlement unit, which makes no sense because we're entitled to money. But it gives an outline of the deadlines and when things have to be done. So I'll send that to everyone.
Yeah, the non-entitled, we're all, actually, basically all the towns are non-entitlement units and the larger metropolitan cities are entitlement units. So they have a whole different set of criteria. So that's the gist of that.
And infrastructure includes roads, so
Yes.
we could do some of the catch up of the stuff that we've been having to put
Like
behind.
paving.
That would be one way to use it. I mean, how are we gonna determine how to balance out, like, what infrastructures we wanna make?
Well, one way to do it is through the budget process. If you want to do that, we could show that money coming in, and then we'll have the rest of the money clearly will be coming in 2022 from everything I keep hearing, that the other 600 that we likely won't see that in 2021. So one way to do that would be through the budget process where we could show that $1.2 million, from this year, the 6 from this year, the 6 from next year, and through the budget process and like listing the roads and the stuff. But the board's also got to give some direction on that, because if you want to take that $1.2 million and invest in broadband, for instance, then we need to know
How are
that.
we
So
gonna determine what are the options? It
Yeah.
seems like.
Well, yeah, not saying we should do this, but our sewer master plan, so far we're 0 for 2 and implementing the top 3 areas of concern. And, we're looking at the third one now, County Road 28, and trying to expand that district to make it more affordable and perhaps be able to accomplish, what was in the sewer master plan. So I would just throw that out there. It should be considered also.
Yeah, and there's so many considerations, as I mentioned last time. We have to be careful not to gift any one particular thing. But Association of Towns training said, just like any other thing, if you can justify public benefit for everyone, for example, sewer, keeping the water clean, maybe helping, Cheshire Sewer.
Right.
There's a lot of things that can be done that clearly, even though it's just for that area, you're not gifting it to them because the argument could be, obviously the lawyers would have to fight it out, but other towns are having, meetings of the board to discuss different ways to do this. The larger municipalities who have a lot of people working for them have assigned employees to take in applications from small businesses. There's so many things that can be done, but I think, we have to start having this conversation and at our board meeting about different things, different ways to do it. Bouncing ideas around. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a lot of money, and figuring out who gets it is not an easy task, just like the budget process.
Doug, is there a timeline to use this money?
Yes.
Yes, there is a
Yeah,
timeline.
26.
It's 2 years, I
26,
think,
I thought it was.
20,
2023, isn't it?
but it's, and if we can't, so from what I understand, and again, it seems like it's like a lot of things, like even the marijuana stuff, right? We're still learning as we go along, the regulations and everything. But from what I understand, if we use it for like the infrastructure section, then basically we're good.
Right.
But if we use it for anything else, then we have to justify and or may have to return portion of it.
Mhm.
But
My thought is, we have a mission at the town where we're delivering certain services. And those services, we've had to push off some of it. We've never been able to fund other pieces of it. My personal approach would be to look to those things like Terry said. One of the benefits of the Cheshire sewers is Cheshire is in the watershed for the lake. The lake is our water supply.
Mhm.
There's fundamental benefits to the entire town. You could say, oh, we're gifting it to Cheshire, but we're not. We're increasing the services that the town provides. And so I look at it and think that if we could find ways around it, stuff like that benefits in so many ways would be great to be able to.
Also include the water main that should be put in the front and upgrade that water district down there, because it's all behind the houses. So I'm just,
Yeah.
I was just curious about the timeline, because I'm thinking, well,
How to get
any
all the way
sewer
up.
is gonna be years,
Yeah.
unfortunately. That's why I've asked about the timeline.
Yeah, is this like a public, well, it sounds to me like Terry, your committee would probably have a vested interest in trying to spend as much of you
Well,
as you
we
can
can
get
find
out your
places to
hands.
spend every penny.
Because those are easy and we don't have to justify it as much. I hope.
Yeah, there's no lack of areas to improve
Apply it
and
to.
to,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Well, and just my own personal opinion, I saw the thing where it said you could help small businesses in the town if they suffered. I own a small business and I'm gonna tell you, there's an awful lot of help for small businesses. We have been helped as much as we were hurt. And I feel like those things keep coming, like, first stimulus, second stimulus, the third stimulus. You're really not hearing the small business people complaining as much as the people who went out of business right away, they suffered. But the rest of us who managed to
they're on
slide
the edge
through it,
anyway, you know.
we're doing pretty good with all these stimuluses.
Doug, did you get a chance to check out that FEMA information I gave you? Is there anything the town can
I'm
benefit?
glad you asked, because I was actually, there's two other things I just want to touch base with you guys on. Gary connected us with somebody that he knows that associated with FEMA. And this first thing, and Kate was working on this. Kathy, I have two documents that I kind of need to catch up with you at some point to sign if I can, but there is a chance, there's an opportunity here, maybe, it's quite a process, and from what I understand from another manager that just did this, there's a lot of red tape. But we may get separately reimbursed from FEMA for all of our COVID-related expenses. Interestingly enough, and separately from this
So that
1.2
would be
million.
like all the masks we bought, all the
Yes,
sanitizer we bought,
yes, all that kind of
this type
stuff.
of thing.
Yes,
Right.
yes, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
Even you could argue that some of the
the
Zoom related expenses and stuff like that.
well, and we had so you could argue too, some of our park stuff with the additional the additional cleansing and all that stuff we had to do. So anyway,
Wow.
we'll work on all that. Okay, the second thing, just to make you aware of Finance Committee, Kate and I have had some meetings with Canandaigua National Bank, Alliance National Bank. I put this in my report. You'll see it in my report. And obviously we have MY class that we use for investments. Obviously, interest rates are incredibly low right now. So, you know, you don't make much in terms of savings and that kind of stuff. And we're still going through some detail. T-notes, by the way, are also incredibly low, Joe. I don't know if you've looked at that lately, but they're nothing. They're literally like 0.00. Yeah. But we did get some rates. I think from first glance, it looks like NY class is still a little higher than our two local banks, but our two local banks are trying to be as competitive as possible because they would like to continue the relationship. Two local banks that we normally work with being LNB and CNB. The one thing about that is LNB, we don't have a municipal account with LNB. We just do our HSA stuff with LNB. And so to get the most favorable rate, we would need to open an account with LNB, like maybe we had talked about trust and agency or something, moving one of those that doesn't get a lot of action, but we would need to do that to get that. But anyway, just want you to be aware. We're looking at that and we've got some money sitting there right now that needs to get invested somewhere.
Are the
So
rates they're offering you,
they're all terrible, to be honest.
yeah, I'm not talking about the rates as much as, are they telling you you have to invest it for like 3 years?
No. We're talking like 60
Short term?
days. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, I was remembering that New York class though provided some functionality
It does in terms of the
that
sub
is
accounts and all
way
that stuff. Yes, absolutely.
beyond anything that we've seen from a bank.
Well, that was one of the conversations that Kate and I had with LNB is like, I explained that specifically. And I said, that's one of the nice things that
Features,
they
right.
provide and the sub tracking and stuff. And, you know, their response was, oh, I think Kate, jump in here. But their response was, that's kind of cool. I wonder if we could do that. I don't know. So
Yeah, they said, well, we could give you a spreadsheet.
right.
Right, which was how we used to do it, but it's much nicer with the state.
So anyway, so
All right, so you want us to try to think how we could spend the $10 or Cuomo, or no, these are Fed bucks. They're-
Oh, well, I've already got spent. I mean, just
You do?
say the word. It's gone.
You got
I mean, it's that.
infrastructure,
But-
shouldn't have any trouble.
But
Yeah.
you know, last year, in all fairness, so seriously, we did reduce highway expenditures by over $500,000
That's what
Oh, yeah.
last year.
We have
Yeah.
held back on that stuff, and we're,
Yeah.
it's gonna crash and burn at some point if we don't. So to me, that's like a great home for it, without a lot of discussion, without a lot of paperwork, without a lot of everything.
And that was specifically like road reconstruction improvements. That wasn't equipment or any of that kind of stuff. That was
Just
specific road
right.
work. Yeah.
Well, you've done that analysis that showed in order to put our roads into condition, that Cornell
Yeah, like-
index that's used in order to improve all of our roads to that level is what, like 12 to 14 million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and the
This
sad
is
part
10%
about it
of
is
it.
right now, because the money is there, the demand is high, the prices are higher because the supply and demand. So,
Yeah.
but still, we might as well do what we
You
can
still
do.
gotta-
right?
Yeah.
What else would be a higher priority? I just can't imagine.
well, lumber futures is kind of peaked. They're starting to come
Yeah.
down
Okay.
now.
God, I hope
You
so.
know, they're not where they were at all,
But
but
that was crazy.
maybe
how high
we've
they
seen
were.
something, but.
Yeah.
But the
All right.
price of oil's up, so the price of asphalt's up.
Yes.
I mean, compared to, you know, the past.
I mean, we're still,
Compared to COVID,
we're,
but
Yeah.
we're still below 600 on the index, which is good
Yeah.
because we're not necessarily over the $62 a ton range. Once it gets up to 600, that's where we really have to worry about how much asphalt we can do. It gets, it really starts to jump up to about $70 a ton. That's when it really starts to hurt. So.
all right, is there anything else that we're glad to hear we can get that money? I was really afraid that we didn't have enough of a hardship to be able to take advantage
Yeah.
of some.
Good. Great.
That would be good for us.
Mhm.
All right, then I'll adjourn the meeting and we'll see you at the town board.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. See everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Right.
We'll be on Zoom. Yeah.